All right. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Rakah, Quitash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone who have taught me this truth and who rule well in this truth. Shalom to the 144,000 and the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel that is scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and mercy unto you, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. You are the true Hebrew Israelites that the Bible speaks of. You are the true chosen people of the book of the Bible. All right, the elect of you Negroes, you Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, the true Israelites that the Bible speaks of. All right, it's time to come back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai now. All right, because as you see it, the surface is being scratched. All right, and pretty soon we're about to enter into a time, all right, that this earth has never seen before. A very great time of trouble. All right. A very great time of misery and hell and anguish and mourning and sorrow and suffering is getting ready to come upon the face of this earth, man. Upon you Negroes, you Latinos, and you Native Americans. Esau, Edom is about to come down upon you with very great wrath. And Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, starting with the elite banking families. All right, that's the Lord's sword. All right. And Esau, Edom's blessing itself was the sword. So, what Esau, Edom, what he's about to do is about to come upon you Negroes, you Latinos, you Native Americans, you Israelites with very great wrath, because he knows he has nothing but a short time. All right. So right now is the time to come back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, because there's not too much longer, bro. In the Bible, the number 7 represents completion. All right. And next year is 2027. So next year just might be that year, if we even make it that far. Depending on how the Lord wants to do things, man. All right. But anyway, I have this article here from Natural News. All right. Let's get into what's going on in the world. All right. To let you know what's happening, to let you know what time we're living in, man. All right, so you don't live under a rock. All right, so let's get into it. All right, this is an article from Natural News. All right, it says U.S. to automatically register men for military draft using federal data starting in December. All right, so a draft is coming, man. All right, a draft is coming. All right, why? Because World War III is about to pop off. All right. And the true prophets and the true servants of the Lord have been warning you and prophesying that World War III is coming. You have many prophets, you have many men, of the Israelites of Great Millstone, and the ones that teaching like men have been telling you that a draft is coming, man. Because of this third world war, we have been prophesying and telling you that it's getting ready to pop off. And now look, man. All right, so now it is time to come back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai, because the Lord's mercy is still stretched out. As long as you see these videos going up, all right, you see the prophets on the highways and hedges teaching and preaching and prophesying, all right, the Lord's mercy is still stretched out, man. But that door is so slightly closed to where you could just slither in. You understand? So come back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai now. All right, because like Yahweh Shai said, all right, he said, fear not, for it is the Lord's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. All right, so now, come back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shai and serve him 10 times more. All right, so let's get into it. All right, and because a lot of scoffers and scorners, all right, a lot of mockers, the ones that misuse the prophets, looked at us like entertainment, they're going to get caught up in this madness, man. All these YNs, right? They're going to get caught up in this madness. The mighty men shall cry there bitterly, right? So let's get into it, all right? You know, you got the bulletins right here, which summarizes the entire article. It says automatic draft registration for men will begin this December. All right, the change is mandated by the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act. The government will use federal data to enroll males at age 18. All right, proponents call it a cost-saving measure to improve bureaucratic efficiency. All right, an actual draft would still require separate congressional authorization. All right, so let's get into this article, right? It says, get ready, America. The federal government is about to take a significant step in prepping for a potential national emergency, and it involves every young man in the country. All right, starting this December, eligible American males will no longer have to sign themselves up for the Selective Service System, all right, the database for a military draft, all right. Instead, the government will automatically register, all right, them using federal data within 30 days of their 18th birthday. All right, it says this quiet but profound shift mandated by the 2026 National Defense Authorization Act marks the biggest change to the draft apparatus in decades and arrives amid a tense geopolitical climate. All right, the Selective Service Systems submitted the proposed rule for this automatic registration to the Office of Information and Regulatory Affairs on March 30th. All right, the change, according to the agency's website, transfers responsibility for registration, all right, for individual men to SSS through integration with federal data sources. All right, the goal, as stated, is to create a streamlined registration process, all right, and corresponding workforce realignment. All right, proponents in Congress have framed this as a simple matter of bureaucratic efficiency, all right, and cost saving. All right, Rep. Chrissy Houlihan, all right, who sponsored the automatic registration language, argued it would allow resources to be redirected. This will allow us to rededicate resources. Basically, that means money toward readiness and toward mobilization, rather than towards education and advertising campaigns driven to register people, Houlihan said, according to a Military Times report. All right, it says the agency has noted that registration rates among eligible men have recently declined, dropping from 84% in 2023, all right, to 81% in 2024. While 46 states and territories already have systems to register men when they get a driver's license, this new federal rule makes the new process universal and unavoidable. All right. It says, let's keep reading. It says, this modernization of the registration machinery inevitability. All right. Did I say that right? Inevitably. All right, brings the specter of conscription back into public discussion. The United States has not had an active military draft since the Vietnam War. All right, relying on an all-volunteer force since 1973. However, the framework for a draft was reinstated in 1980 by President Jimmy Carter to be ready for a national emergency. All right, and this is all happening because this Third World War, all right, that the true prophets and the true servants of the Lord have been prophesying, man. All right, we've been letting you know that this Third World War is coming. All right, and now you finally see, and people can't say nothing, man. All right, it is very evident who the true prophets and the true servants of the Lord are, man, in these last days, as prophecy speaks. All right, like the scriptures say, at the end it shall speak. Right? It says that history feels more relevant today with ongoing global conflicts. The war in Iran, currently in a fragile ceasefire, has led many to openly question if a draft could be possible. When asked about it last month, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt offered a careful worded response. It's not part of the current plan right now, Leavitt said, all right, while adding that President Trump wisely keeps his options on the table. All right, it is crucial to understand the reinstating an actual draft is not an unilateral executive action. All right, Congress would need to pass legislation to amend the Military Selective Service Act to authorize the president to induct personnel. The automatic registration is just about building the list, all right, not activating a call-up. All right, it says for decades, the legal obligation to register has carried serious consequences for those who ignored it. And that does not change with automatic enrollment. Failure to register is a felony. All right. It says non-registrants face a fine of up to $250,000 or a prison sentence up to 5 years. It can also block access to federal student loans, many government jobs, and job training programs. All right. For immigrants, it can mean a loss of U.S. citizenship. All right. Now, with automatic registration, the government eliminates the possibility of an individual forgetting or choosing not to sign up. The burden, all right, of compliance shifts entirely. All right. Ensuring near total participation from the male population aged 18 to 25. All right, says women remain exempt, all right, from the registration requirement, although legislative efforts, all right, to include them have surfaced in recent years, only to be stripped from final bills. All right. It says, so as this new rule moves toward finalization, it represents more than just a paperwork update. It is the government streamlining, all right, its ability to know exactly who is available, all right, should a dire need arise. In an era where headlines are dominated by distant wars, this change is a tangible reminder that the machinery of national defense is always being maintained, even if we hope it never needs to be used. All right, the question for every family with sons is no longer if they will be on the list, but what the nation might one day do with it. All right, so you see what's going on, man. All right, there's getting ready to be a draft, man. All right, and you know who's going to get caught up in that draft? All right, all the mockers and scorners and scoffers, people that misused the prophets and looked at us like entertainment, all these YNs, right? That want to be wicked as hell in these streets, right? The mighty men shall cry there bitterly. All right, so that was a quick update, quick news to let you know what's going on. All right, to let you know what time we're living in, man. Because this third world war is about to pop off. All right? We don't have too much time longer, man. You know? So, you know, if you don't want to get caught up in this madness, come back to Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh Shah. All right, because that time, the destruction draws nigh, man. All right, destruction draweth nigh. All right, and the scriptures say, put not off from day to day. Let's grab that scripture real quick. I ended off with that script. All right, the book of Ecclesiasticus, right? The 5th chapter, and I think it's the 7th verse. Yeah, all right. Ecclesiasticus 5 and 7, it says, make no tearing to turn to the Lord. Yeah, don't take your sweet time to turn to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. Right? Make no tearing to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. Yeah, don't put off the Lord from day to day, talking about, oh, tomorrow I'm going to start worshiping and coming back to the Lord. And then when tomorrow comes, you still putting off the Lord, man. When tomorrow comes, you say the same thing. Oh, tomorrow. And then when tomorrow gets here, you keep saying tomorrow, tomorrow, tomorrow. No. All right? Don't put off the Lord from day to day. All right? Verse 7, make no tearing to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth. Yeah. All right? You took your sweet time to come back to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai. But now it's too late. The wrath of the Lord is here. And now you can't escape, right? Make no tearing to turn to the Lord, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of the Lord come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed. Woo! And perish in the day of vengeance. Yeah, because what the Lord is getting ready to bring is vengeance upon this earth. The Lord is starting to visit this earth right now. He's already visiting this earth. The Lord is bringing his prophecy to pass, man. If you don't live under a rock, if you're paying attention to what's going on, if you know the prophecies, right? Make no tearing to turn to the Lord, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, and put not off from day to day. For suddenly shall the wrath of Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai come forth, and in thy security thou shalt be destroyed. All right, and perish in the day of vengeance. All right. But, if you come back to Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, what did Yahweh Shai say? He said, fear not, for it is the Lord's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. And the Lord wants you to have received the kingdom of heaven. All right. The elect, man. Because we know the 2/3, starting with the elect. It starts with the elect, because we know the 2/3 is going to be destroyed. And only a small remnant is going to come back. All right? It is the Lord's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. So fear not, man. The Lord wants you to see you succeed, man. Go hard, man. Go as hard as the scriptures say, we went astray. So now it's time to seek the Lord 10 times more. All right? We got to go hard and pop off. We at the last stretch, man. Go harder than ever, man. Serve the Lord harder than ever. Cry and weep and mourn and beg for salvation and mercy harder than ever. Pray without ceasing. Beg and weep and mourn for salvation and mercy without ceasing, man. All right? All right? So, Lord willing, Yahweh Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, rocked his eye. This lesson is or was edifying, just to bring you this news, to let you know what's going on, to let you know what time we're living in, so you don't live under a rock, man. You see what time we're living in. All right? So with that being said, until the next one, shalom, shalom.